say that fencing doesn't have a fixed form, whether it's a leg position or a stance. This is the main difference between the Rangandals and other noble families. He asked if they knew why. Jin raised his hand and replied that it was because of the unique physical abilities and talents that the Rangandals possess. It was Vero. My uncle said that being a Rangandal meant having a great bloodline. Their physical stats and sword skills were even beyond the dreams of an ordinary person. Zed said that if they had any minor flaws, their level was still much higher than average. That's why it was so easy for them to learn, Zed said with an evil smile. He gave each of the brothers a steel ball. Jin looked at the ball and thought that there was something inside. He assumed that there were steel parts. Zed said that this ball is called a pure stone, and when it hits, it makes a ringing sound. My uncle said they were going to hear 3 kinds of sounds, so he asked them to pay attention. The first time he hit the edge of the ball, the sound was so unpleasant that one of the brothers even had to cover his ears with his hands, and the others were clearly not happy either. Then he struck again, but this time weakly. For them, the sound was no longer unpleasant. As they understood, the sound of a stone depends on the force with which it is hit. If you hit it weakly, the sound will be quiet, but if you calculate the strength well, the ringing will be truly beautiful. The essence of training is to make sure that the sound is perfect with each beat. This is done to train the strength of the spirit, will, perseverance, and concentration. If you take into account the physical abilities of the Rangandal family, then this exercise is perfect, although its essence is simple. However, they only hit a piece of steel, which is too boring for the Rangandal's special training. So Zed made the last sound. Jin wondered what the third sound would be, because he could definitely hear that there was something inside the ball, like steel shards. While Zed was beating, Jin suddenly realized something. He ran to his brothers and shouted for them to fall down. The ball split, and then there was an explosion. He was very strong. The brothers were lying on the floor with Jin on top of them. They didn't know what had happened, but it was clear that Jin's reaction was good. Zed said that if they hit too hard, it would end up like this. And that's how they started training. After they survived the explosion and escaped unscathed, Zed said they were the first since Luna to be unharmed by the rock. Most of their siblings learned from him, so this brutal performance is part of the initiation. Zed never thought there would be another unharmed child. Jin then asked him if he could find out how Luna was able to escape the damage. Zed said that Jin would probably be disappointed when he found out. At least his brothers were annoyed. Zed said Luna didn't shy away like Jin did. Like the others, she took the blow on herself, but it was so strong that there wasn't even a scratch left on it. Zed told the 3 of them to start training anyway. He ordered them to beat until they could produce a clear sound at any time and in any situation. And now we are transported to the moon. Her Nanny, started talking about what Luna had said earlier. Luna asked if Nanny was saying that someone in the family wanted to kill Jean. Nanny said she suspected young ladies Mew and Anna. Given how much they try to keep an eye on Jean, Nanny is pretty sure the sisters had something to do with it. Even though it looked like they wanted to kill Jin, Luna still couldn't believe that the sisters would be so crazy as to try to kill in the Tempest Castle. She said that it was forbidden for those in the Tempest Castle to vie for inheritance. Besides, if Cheyenne found out about something like this, the family would be turned upside down and their own lives would be in danger. Nanny asked if there was a good chance that Jean had lied or taken the wrong approach. Jin was 10 at the time, so both options are possible. Since then, Luna and Nanny have been investigating for 5 years, but have not achieved any results. Luna doubted that Jin would lie. She thought of what he had said to her. She said he was careful with her then, not because he felt uncomfortable, but because he felt threatened with his life. It was in the air, Luna said. Nanny asked if young ladies Mew and Anna should be looked at. Luna said that she probably should and shared that she was worried about the fact that they still hadn't found anything. It was kind of creepy for her. Nanny said she was worried, too. She worries that Luna might be harmed by her siblings. Luna replied that she was able to survive her 30th birthday and made it clear to her that there was no need to worry so much. Luna said she hoped Jin was doing well. Nanny asked if she meant Master Jed's training. She said it was true. Jin should feel the effect of her mind-eye training. The clear stone really hits hard, Luna said. She was sure Jin was fine. She loved watching them grow up. We'll move on the next day. The training session started 4 hours ago. Jin and the twins were very tired. Then Zed gave them a 5-minute break. Jin thought it was an exercise to control his strength and develop his mind. But he was wrong. He needed to increase the destructiveness of his aura. Zed hit the rock without using it, but Jin doesn't have enough physical strength. So he decided that it needed to be strengthened with aura control. First, you need to focus the aura and achieve a clear sound. Only then can Jin break the stone. The main thing is not to rush. Even the twins were able to do this in their previous lives, so Jin was sure that he would definitely be able to do it. Zed looked at his brothers and thought that they were all holding up well, but when he looked at Jin, he thought that this kid was special. He wondered if Jin might be able to break Luna's record. And now we see that the day is already coming to an end. Zed told Jin to tell them that if they were going to be tomorrow, they weren't coming at all. As the brothers left, Zed pondered. The twins were exhausted much later than he thought. They are real Rankendellas, after all. And then there's the youngest, and suddenly after that, Zed starts to get angry about why Jin is the youngest. Zed believed that if Jin had been born 10 years ago, all the Rangandel forces would have been concentrated in his hand. Then he said that his brother was a disgrace. Then Zed sat down, annoyed, and repeated what a shame it was. We are now fast forward a month to March 1975. Middle-class cadets are being trained. The man announced that the middle class had received their first mission. Those cadets whose names he names should come forward. Their first mission is security. They are assigned to guard the new recruits from the Blacksmith Association. Then he called out the names. The third mission is the destruction of demonic creatures. The target of the mission will be orcs. Location: unprotected lands of the Kurano Principality. He looked at the page he was reading from. He didn't understand something or was surprised, and then read out the names. Mesa and Ballop were among them, and they were shocked. The man said that there were 2.5 dozen orcs on them that needed to be destroyed. And as the orcs move in rootstock or groups, they will have to muster their resolve and give it their all. The man said that this was all and wished everyone good luck. The cadet ranks began to talk about how destroying orcs wasn't for new recruits. They discussed that those sent on a mission would return half dead. Suddenly, a cadet standing next to Kajin. He grinned and said that he thought they should prepare incense and graves. Kajin said he had a moment before leaving for the mission and asked if they would like to make a will. One of the cadets got angry, but the other one continued to sneer, insinuating that Jin's faction was very weak without him. Meza pulled away one of the faction cadets and told Tomet to keep his cool. So far, they are not strong enough to compete with them. There's a mission ahead, you'll still have time to hurt yourself, Meza said. Tomet started snapping, and that's when Meza lost her temper. She told him to stop and stand still. She said that since their commander was Rankhandel, they should focus on the mission they received and return unharmed after her successful application. She said it was the only way they would put them in their place. We see that the brothers continue to train with clean stones. Suddenly Hayton hit him too hard and blew him up, sending shards of rock flying straight at Jin. Hayton asked Jin if Lion was okay, to which Jin replied that he was still alive and asked not Hayton to do it somewhere far away from him. It's been a month since Jin started training with pure stones. His older brothers started blowing them up. But Jin had a strange feeling. It was as if a path of iron beads had appeared in front of his eyes and was imprinted as clearly as the trajectory of an arrow. And if the pure stone shards hit him again, he would definitely be able to dodge. Perhaps this was the perception that Luna had trained him in. Jin decided that before he forgot, he should try again. But suddenly Zed asked for attention and said that they were assigned a mission. The brothers whined about being sent to the celebration. They are being sent to the Bement Empire. Zed offered his condolences and said that thanks to them, the rest of the brothers wouldn't have to dance at the imperial reception. But he chided them for even if it's such a small thing, aren't they ashamed to sigh about their mission? He said that if he saw it again, he would make you dream of death. The brothers were terrified. Jin also thought that the Mayu and Anna sisters were also mean, punishing their ignorant brothers by sending them to a social event in the Bement Empire. My uncle said it was a big event and it was hard to refuse even if you were a Rankhandel. He ordered them to go there and learn something useful. The Blitznits are gone. Then my uncle looked at his notebook again and gave Junior a task. Jin's task is to eliminate Bip. The target is the toy of the Ice Palace Master Talaris. In other words, one of her many lovers. Zed asked Jin if he knew about the palace. Jin said he knew. The Ice Palace is a huge tower in the middle of the continent's western sea. It is owned by the master of the Ice Palace, the 51st Master Talaris in Dorma, also known as the Spider of the Abyss. She became famous for being ruthless to anyone who attempted to kill her lovers. Zed warned that the palace and its master were very strong, and that this palace was beyond the reach of Rankhandel or Zippel. Jin's target is Alcaro Shandor, who is accompanied by the Ice Palace's men and lives in the Mamita crime district. Hearing this, the twins were taken aback. The twins whispered that if it was in Mamita, they would know that the knights had ordered it and that it was too much even if the younger one was so good. The customer was the Shandor family itself. They ordered the murder of their own. It looked like the family couldn't get Alcaro back, so they decided to kill him. Jin said firmly and decisively that he would do it. Zed was surprised by Jin's choice, because if Jin had refused, Zed would have talked to the knights. My uncle laughed and told Jin that he liked his straightforwardness. The uncle said that the three of them would leave in 3 days. The twins couldn't believe that the younger one would actually go to Mammoth. My uncle said that since Jin agreed, there was no need to stop him. Suddenly, the brothers approached Jin. They said that in case of danger, he would open up, then they would not touch him. They were worried about Jin. Jin told the older brothers to decide who they liked best, him or the sisters. Zed then turned to Hayton and Daytona and said that Jin was telling them not to go against him if they wanted to live happily ever after. Then we fast forward a few days. Meza and the other cadets came out to see Jin off, and she asked him if he was going to Mammoth. She noticed that his hair is a different color. Jin said that he can't go there as a rank handle, so he disguises himself. Jin said that their tasks are different, so they need different gates. After asking them about the mission, Jin replied that they looked gloomy and asked if something was wrong. Meza said everything was fine and they came to say goodbye. Jin asked about what it means to say goodbye, and she said that it won't be the last time they see each other. Meza said that if it didn't go so well, one of them might die, to which Jin replied that nothing would change from their excitement and advised them to focus on their task. Until he returned, he asked not to waste his energy and worry in vain. Jin said goodbye to Bellop, too. Jin then asked Jilly to keep an eye on them. Mirakin in the form of a cat told Jin not to worry, because this body is gorgeous black, but the genie should not be caught or noticed. Before leaving, Mirakin told Jin that he had to be careful not to be discovered, and advised him not to be careless because of his miracle disguise. Jilly said Sir Mirakin hadn't arrived yet, and it would be quiet for a while. Jin told her to think of it as a vacation and that he would bring her some souvenir. Gilly said that he was worried about him because he had to kill the mistress of the Ice Palace's lover. Although Jin isn't just an ordinary cadet, Mammoth is a very dangerous place, so Jilly asked Jin to take care of himself. Jin got on his horse and said goodbye to the nanny. The place Jin, Mammoth went to is a crime district, a place where the most repulsed criminal elements gather. And now we see that a man came into the bar and shouted to everyone to meet the new guy. This man's name is Tonk. This bar is a hideout for criminals. Because of the energy that comes from these creepy types, they say that even grass doesn't grow. And then we see Jin enter the bar. The people sitting there were a little surprised that it looked like they really had a new one. After entering the bar, Jin tossed a silver coin and said that there would be a glass of water and a light snack. Everyone was surprised at his audacity because he's just a kid. Tonk went up to Jin and told him that Jin was new, but he was acting like one of them. Tonk asked him where the genie came from, if it was some rank 9 knight from a faraway land. Then he viciously said that since Jin had arrived in Mammoth, he should learn his rules. He ordered him to kneel down and then do something else, but Jin didn't let him finish and stabbed him in the throat. Blood splattered on the table, and Tonk died. Jin put the knife down on the table and asked him how long he would wait. Everyone in the bar was shocked, and then they laughed out loud and started drinking, saying that they expected Tonk to die like this. Jin just kept thinking that just like Zed had said, all the madmen gathered here. Zed had told Jin that if he wanted to impress the local outcasts, he needed to show them his strength and fearlessness. Jinny had received a huge amount of support in his previous life, and he hoped that one day he would be able to repay Zed. So the bartender handed Jin a glass of water and a light snack, saying he hadn't poisoned them. Jin said that poisons are not favored here, and he knows it. The bartender said that Jin was well informed and asked if he had anyone from around here. Jin said it was none of his business. Then the bartender started asking Jin what he wanted. He offered him drugs, said the last batch was pretty good, and also asked if he was looking for someone. Jin asked if someone who introduced himself as Easter had passed by. The bartender said that he was absolutely sure that such a person was not here, so Jin asked him to tell him where to spend the night. No bedbugs or anything like that. The bartender said there was only one place, an inn in the west of the city, the Moonwell. He said that even kings stay there, so Jin can rest easy. So Jin came to the Moonwell Inn. As he walked, he thought about the task at hand. Alcaro Chandra, son of the Count. He grew up not knowing what need was, going crazy with entertainment and pleasure. All he has is a noble family name, Alcaro, a man who trembles before the strong and mocks the weak. The reason he's staying in such a dangerous city is because he wants to attract the attention of the mistress of the Ice Palace. So the only place he can be is a hotel. Jin thought of the new drug the bartender had mentioned and assumed that Alcaro was brewing it in his room. Jin also assumed that if Alcaro was the Ice Palace master's lover, then he must have security guards. So Jin went into the hotel to investigate the situation in the lobby first. And the first thing he saw was a disgruntled Alcaro yelling at the knight. Jin was lucky, he didn't think that he would meet him so soon. Alcaro, meanwhile, continued to argue with the knights. He was fiercely begging them for something. One of them said that something was wrong and that it was their duty to protect him. The knight was about to say something about Alcaro's pampering, when suddenly Alcaro shut him up, saying that he didn't even want to hear about it. Alcaro said that if he got it, he would do anything for them, and he called them names and said that when his darling came back, he would blow their heads off. The knight behind him sighed heavily, and Alcaro was angry, and he was beginning to boast that he was a member of the Chandra family, and they were peasant brats, when suddenly the knight knocked him out with a blow. The knights obviously didn't want to protect Alcaro, because he wasn't very smart. They would be happy if he died of an overdose. The guard said that he didn't understand why they should let Alcaro live, but they were still determined to do what they had to do without any reasoning. Jin analyzed the security detail. Alcaro's security is about level 6 or so, he thought. He also knew that killing Alcaro would be much easier than he thought. Problems will start after. Jin needs to get him out of the way, avoid the guards, and stay safe. Jin reflected that it was an unspoken rule of Mammoth not to use poison. Everyone would be insulted if he used poison, and the guards might get in the way. Alcaro should be removed quietly in the secret room of the Moonwell, Jin thought, and slamming his palm down on the table, he made up his mind to act. And here we see some people coming and discussing how many guardians Alcaro has. The girl clearly hates Alcaro, saying that all the difficulties are because of him because he doesn't know his place. One of the knights walking nearby said that it would be over for today. He called the girl mistress and said that she came personally to get rid of him. They are going to the Moonwell, and the girl said that she can get rid of his kind at any time. She continued by saying that she couldn't wait to tell them the good news. Suddenly, thunderclouds appeared in the sky, lightning flashing everywhere. The guard said it was from the Moonwell side. The girl said they were crazy and definitely picked the wrong day. And now we see Jin again, who has decided that he will raise the entire Moonwell with magic directly from the room. Once he added the 4th rank shadow energy, he would gain the destructive power of the 6th. That way, everyone will assume that the mage is at least rank 6, and no one will be able to suspect Jin, because who would think of a brat who is barely 15? After all, even Verid and Zippel barely reached that level. In addition, due to the properties of shadow energy, Jin will not leave any traces of using magic, so there will not be a single reason for suspicion. He decided that a lightning bolt would be enough to make it look like it had come from outside. As the shadow began to gather around him, he used the release of shadow energy. We see that Jin is surrounded by darkness while summoning lightning. He said that no matter how much he thinks, this plan is a bit crazy, and so he began to summon lightning. It was Jin who created the lightning bolt that struck over the Moonwell. It turned out that the girl was Ceres Indorma, the commander of the 7 Swords of the Ice Palace, the daughter of the master of the Ice Palace. Lightning struck the building and destroyed it. The guard told Ceres that it seemed some high-ranking mage had a grudge against the Moonwell. Ceres said it was probably true, but the mage might be up to their liking. Ceres added that there were 6 palace men in the inn, and that her mother's lover, Alcaro, was definitely there. Ceres told them to hurry up, prioritizing the lives of their people, and said that Alcaro didn't care. The entire sky was blue with the glow of lightning. Suddenly, another bolt of lightning struck right in front of the girl. The bandits fled in terror. They thought it was one of Zippel's magicians, because one of them had recently killed Zippel, but it turned out that this bandit was lying. Suddenly, one of the guards got scared and started to run away, but suddenly lightning struck in front of him. It was incredibly strong, stronger than the others. Etten was shocked. Ceres said that judging by the force of the impact, it was the last attack. Ceres hoped they were okay. Suddenly, Jean emerged from the rubble. He was thinking about the fact that his last lightning bolt, which he had spent all the energy of the shadows on, was very close in power to the 7th rank. He managed to avoid serious injuries thanks to the pendant. Jin saw that the Ice Palace guards were alive, but he didn't see Alcaro. Jin thought that if Alcaro had survived, this was a great chance. But suddenly Ceres appeared in front of him and was surprised that there were people of her own age in Mamita. She asked Jin if he was okay and said that he had been hurt by lightning. Ceres said getting out of here would be a great solution and told Jin to move and get up. Etten said that their men were hurt, but they were all safe. This was a relief to Ceres, who ordered everyone to gather outside, and if Alcaro was with them, she ordered them to kill him. Ceres said that magic was uniform and that it was definitely one person, and ordered them to capture the magician if they found him. Jin realized that the Ice Palace master's daughter was standing in front of him, and from her words, he deduced that she had come to deal with Alcaro. Jin decided that Alcaro was going to die anyway, so there was no point in leaning out. The problem was something else. It would be bad if the daughter of the Ice Palace master remembered him. Jin decided that he needed to hide his face as much as possible and pretend that he was damaged in this mess in order to leave as soon as possible. One of the guards said it was a shame that Alcaro had been killed by a magical attack, which meant that they had failed the mission to escort him, but Ceres wasn't so annoyed. She said that she had come to relieve them of this burden, and that she had had enough of his whims. Jumping onto a small dais and raising her sword, Ceres loudly announced that the inn was now under the control of the Ice Palace. She also shouted her name and said that she was the daughter of Talaris, the master of the Ice Palace, and the commander of the 7 Swords of the Ice Palace. She said that anyone who resisted would be declared an enemy of the Ice Palace. 2 bandits decided to object. She shouted that they didn't care whose daughter she was there, it was Mammoth. The second man shouted that it was the kings of this city who ruled here, not Ceres, and that maybe the Ice Palace was to blame for the attack. In an instant, she cut off their heads. As she had said, the protesters would become enemies of the palace. Then, she said that playing the ruler of this garbage pit really allows you to look down on the Ice Palace. Ceres said that if it turned out that the attack was caused by the Ice Palace, the bandits would receive compensation. But what if the maid's target was them and the Ice Palace was an accidental victim? And she asked if it was not clear why they should take control of this place. The bandits told them to do what they wanted and that they agreed that this magician should be found and killed. Ceres replied that of course they would start looking for the mage among the survivors, but it couldn't be any of them. There wasn't a single mage there. Ceres said who knows whose anger the bandits might have attracted, and immediately told them to keep their objections to themselves. And then she went back to Jin. She asked why a kid like him was still here when she said to leave. Jin said he was just a little scared and hurt his leg and apologized. Ceres laughed and said that he must be too cowardly for a man and too cute for a swordsman. She took out some salve and told Jin to roll up his pant leg. She said that Jin was lucky to have survived the attack and that she, Ceres, was sharing the medicine with him, and she told him to take it as a great honor. Jin asked how he could repay her kindness, but she smiled and said it was nothing. She asked how someone like him could repay someone like her. She told him to think of it as a pleasant memory and thank the Ice Palace now and then. So she said goodbye to him, and Jin waved back. Jin's mission was accomplished, and so we see cadets killing ogres. They just killed the 18th ogre. One of the cadets said that he thought they would return at this rate without any losses. Cadets Tamint and Scut were happy that everyone would survive and rubbed their noses at those who laughed at them. But Meza immediately interrupted them, telling them not to relax because there are still 7 monsters roaming around. Meza had thought that orcs usually moved in groups, but these ones moved singly, so they were easier to kill. She thought that the gods were watching over them after all, or that Master Jin was blessed and that the blessing affected them as well. She told everyone to return to the search and ordered that no one relax until the end of the mission and that everyone remain vigilant. And now we see that Mirakin in the form of a cat is watching them from the bushes. He was bored because all he could do was wait for the cadets to catch the remaining 7 before he could go home. Suddenly, we're flashed back a few days to when Jin's squad started their mission. We see the orcs gathered in a large group. Mirakin, standing on the dais, ordered them to listen and said that from now on they should walk one at a time. He threatened them that if they disobeyed his orders or hung around in pairs, he would destroy them all. He told them to get out of his sight if they understood. The orcs scattered in fear, and now we are transported back to the present. Miraka in the form of a cat talks about how Jin forced him to do such unworthy things. He wondered what if Jin was a millennial contractor. Mirakin was not happy that everything was on Gina. As he watched Jin's party from the tree, all he could think about was what would make him buy new manhwas when he got back. In this body, Mirakin needs to do everything possible so that the squad returns from the mission in full force. Suddenly, Mirakin noticed someone approaching. Mirakin was confused. That someone was coming from the other side. Mirakin couldn't figure out where they'd come from, but he knew that the cadets wouldn't be able to just come back. Then Mirakin was forced to use shadow energy. The good thing was that the cadets were somewhere in the 3rd rank. After all, if it was Jin, he would have instantly noticed Mirakin's barrier. And now we see how the shadow outlined a circle, and then a dome was formed. Belop noticed something. He noted that it was getting dark rather suddenly, but he thought it was going to rain. As we can see, there is no face on the head of this huge knight, only something big and glowing red. Mirakin transformed into a dragon and started flying towards whatever was approaching. He was outraged that someone dared to send their warriors without his permission. As he approached, he saw that it wasn't a living creature, but a relic from ancient times. It was a grave giant, with a shield in one hand and a spear in the other, and the giant was completely covered in armor. Mirakin was sure that his dragon clan had gotten rid of the grave giants a couple of thousand years ago. Besides, he couldn't understand how a giant guarding the graves of dead gods could be here. It wasn't a pleasant meeting. At this moment, Mirakin started to form a ball of shadow energy. He wanted to end the grave giants in one fell swoop. He used shadow energy on the giant. From such a force, the giant began to collapse. Its eye burned red for a while, but soon the eye went out and the giant fell to the ground. Mirakin began to descend and descended to the ground. He reincarnated as a human and said that he hadn't used his powers in so long that his bones were cracking. Mirakin said there was no way the grave giant could have appeared here by accident. No matter how much he thinks about it, the Zippel family is clearly involved. He couldn't understand what was going on in this world. Mirakin decided that it would be best if he didn't tell Jin anything yet, because if something happened, Mirakin would be able to protect him. Mirakin was thinking that Jin had grown a lot in 10 years. He was sure that he had enough strength to go up against the Zippels. Suddenly we are transported to a workshop, and now we see for the first time the magician of reincarnation, Buber Gaston. He told Bishkal that there was a problem with Buber's creation, the grave giant, and Buber was very nervous. The one who entered the room was Bishkal Ibriano, the head of the Kinzello terrorist group. Bishkal said that he had already heard the news and that as far as he knew, the cadets were attacked by the grave giant during the night. Buber said it was true, but he would never have thought that anyone would dare destroy his precious creation. Bishkal said that this is not so important now. After all, the one who defeated the giant is a dragon. Moreover, the shadow dragon, Bishkal said that he specially went there personally to check everything out in person. Buber got nervous and asked Bishkal if he meant that the dragon had noticed their work. Bishkul said he wasn't sure, but he thought it was a warning. Bishkul then told Bibara to look around here and that he would send people to help. After all, he urgently needs to meet with the Zippel family. We are transported to the castle and see the following picture. Zed, with a smile on his face, praises Jin for successfully completing the mission and returning from Mammoth in one piece. Zed said that the bannermen who gave Jin this assignment would be surprised. Well, they'll be furious when they find out how it went. So Zed ordered all the fighters to disperse. Jin and his squad stood and congratulated each other on their successful missions. Jin told the group that they had done a great job, and they said they were very happy that Jin was safe. Then we see the cadets standing in the distance start discussing them. One of them said that by some miracle on the same day, the magician staged a terrorist attack at the hotel where the target of the task was staying. One of them said that Mr. Jin was really lucky. Another began by saying that they live in an unfair world, because not only is Rankindle kissed by fate, while some people, no matter how hard they try, still can't get above the average cadet. One of the cadets said that he didn't know how skilled they were, but young Master Jin was only rank 4 and his cadets were only rank 3, and then asked Kajin if he was going to leave it like this. Kajin said that even if he was arrogant and the youngest lord, he still had pure Rankindle blood in his veins. Kajin said they couldn't do anything until the lady gave the order. Suddenly, Jin came up to them. They started whispering about whether Jin had heard them. Jin said that, unfortunately, he had excellent hearing. The cadets were surprised. Jin asked Kajin if his arm was okay. Kajin replied that the doctors said that with the way Jin cut it off, it would be easy to restore it. Jin said it looked like the cadets were having a very interesting discussion. Kajin replied that most of them, ordinary people who encounter people like Jin, whisper behind their backs and ask them not to pay attention. Jin said that no matter what he does or doesn't do, as long as he doesn't become a standard bearer, it's none of their business. Kajin asked what kind of flogging he would get if Jin wanted it. Jin asked why he would do such a thing, to which Kajin replied that it was because he was being extremely brazen. Jin said that Kajin really is an eyesore. Kajin got up in a huff and said that he didn't think it was pleasant for anyone to watch a young master receive universal acclaim after completing a mission based on pure luck. Jin said that it looked like there was a misunderstanding. He didn't say that because Kajin was making fun of him and acting impudent. Jin told Kajin that as a 5th rank knight with outstanding abilities compared to intermediate class cadets, Kajin should be stronger than Jin. Taking out his sword, Jin asked so why did he choose to discuss behind his back. Jin reminded Kajin that he could challenge him at any time. Jin told Kajin to draw his sword and that there was no need to give in to him anymore. Jin wanted to deal with everything properly. Kajin said that it sounded like Jin didn't want them to put an aura restriction. Jin said that Kajin understood correctly, to which Kajin responded by drawing his sword, saying that Jin would regret it. Kajin attacked Jin, but he blocked them. Jin was thinking that Kajin's attacks were really heavy, but he wasn't a match for the ones Jin was going to fight. While fighting, Kajin shouted in anger that Jin was still too weak to fight him. Jin blocked Kajin's next attack, but then Kajin hit him. After another swing of the sword, Jin had an idea. Something occurred to him, something that was happening to him like the day a steel ball hit him because of Hayden, and he began to understand the trajectory of Kajin's next strike. There are an infinite number of places that a Kajin can hit, but not so many for a 5th ranked knight, especially when the enemy is not visible behind the blinding veil of anger. So Jin decided to finish him off in 3 strokes. They exchanged words, Jin saying that Kajin can't beat him because Jin reads all his actions. Kajin said that Jin keeps saying such meaningless things. Jin made a backhand push, then an unexpected uppercut, and then the final attack. He created an aura of power around the sword that the 4th rank couldn't even dream of successfully blocking. Kajin's sword flew away, and Kajin himself fell to the ground. Kajin couldn't figure out how Jin had just blocked the kick. Pointing the sword at Kajin, Jin said that he knew how many years it had taken him to reach the 5th rank. Kajin asked if Jin had deceived him. He didn't know that Jin was ranked 5. He said that he wasn't lying, that Kajin just didn't know anything about him. Jin never gets into a fight if he knows he's going to lose. Suddenly the 2 brothers Hayton and Daytona came running, shouting about what had happened. When they saw this picture, they suddenly stopped and were surprised. They couldn't believe that their little brother had defeated Kajin. As Jin walked past them, he said it was easy. The twins were shocked. And then we see the sisters asking Kajin if Jin really beat him. Kajin said that he was very ashamed of himself. One of the sisters asked if Kajin had been bribed or if he had succumbed because Jin had run candle. Kajin said none of that. Mayu asked what was the matter then. She couldn't believe that Kajin was seriously claiming that a 15-year-old boy had defeated a rank 5 knight so quickly. Kajin said that not only he, but everyone who was on the training ground can confirm. Kajin also added that Jin's strength surpasses rank 5. Grinning, Mayu said that it was her own fault for expecting something like this from someone like Kajin and told her to just leave. And so the sisters were left alone. My sister said that she thought the younger one was showing them his teeth. Mayu replied that it wasn't just them. Jin was grinning at the whole family. Mayu said that on Gina's next mission, experiment with their kids. This must be the place from which he will return dead. Next, we see Gilly telling Jin that there is a commotion in the Garden of Swords. Everyone is amazed by his abilities. Jin said the first chapter, Father and Sister Luna. In the entire history of the Runkendels, only 3 became 5th rank knights at the age of 15. And so Wu Jin now has the 5th rank of swordsmanship, 4th of magic and shadow energy. Jin hadn't even expected this level of swordsmanship. After all, he was just training normally with a pure stone and had reached the 5th rank. As he stared out the window, he thought that it looked like if one of his 3 powers, shadow energy, magic, or aura became stronger, it affected the others. When Jin was overloaded with shadow energy earlier, he opened up auras and mana afterward. No one has ever possessed such abilities in history, so it's useless to search for records, but Jin is sure that these 3 powers are definitely connected. Suddenly, Jin noticed the flowers and asked Jilly if she had put them up. Jilly said they were brought in while Jin was away, so she didn't clean them up. Then she asked if she should get rid of them. Jin said no need, there are no curses on the flowers and everything is fine. Returning to the topic of conversation, Jin said that since they discovered that he had become a 5th rank knight at 15, his brothers would start to get a little nervous, including brother Joshua, who is vying to be the next head. And they show us Joshua Runkendel. When Luna Runkendel relinquished her position as first standard bearer, the second standard bearer of Runkendel became a strong candidate, and with the support of his mother, Rose Runkendel, he secured the position. Jin said that it would be a good idea to hide the abilities until the time comes, and he decides that revealing his achievements will do more good. Since it was reported that Jin had reached the 5th rank, news of him would spread further than Runkendel and would surely be covered in the press as well. Nurakin said that Jin is so open about complimenting himself. Nurakin is sure that if Jin becomes the center of attention, then his brothers will become more obedient. Jin said that was true, but more importantly, Father would personally arrive at the Sword Garden. And then they were both surprised. Shire needs someone else to be the heir. Other than Luna, his father was never happy with any of Jin's seniors. Sister Luna, who was the only one who got his attention, was not interested in the throne, so he decided that she was not suitable for the role of head of the family. Then Joshua strengthened his position. Brother Diff, Sister Runcha, and Sister Marie became temporary successors. This line was set in stone, but things have changed since Jin came along. Jin thought about how Shire didn't look at age. Father is the kind of person who gives everyone a chance, so he will chase Jin around just like when he was a regular rank. Jai is sure that his orders will include 2 things. First, it's a test of whether Jin can overcome the age gap between him and his brothers. The second is protection, and Shire doesn't want Jin to die at the hands of his relatives before he passes the test, because Jin is a special case. Jilly said that if Jin's story was published in the newspapers, he would be inundated with invitations from families and groups from all over the world. Jin said that she was right, but Jin had a plan to deal with all the meetings at once, which was to hold a banquet when Shire arrived. He told Jilly to be ready and told her that it would be her responsibility to keep a particularly vigilant eye on Murakin. If Murakin turned into a human and made his way to the reception, it would be the end of them. Murakin, surprised, jumped up and said that he was not a child and he had no intention of doing this. And so a few days passed. Jilly says that the butler seems to be very busy answering an endless stream of emails. When she asked Pedro, it turned out that even the ruling family of the Bement Empire wasn't left out. Jin said it was funny that they were also very curious about what was going on. Jilly said that the head had sent a schedule of home visits through him. Shire is scheduled to arrive in a month, so even the arrival dates of other families were scheduled. Jin noticed that the young gentleman had become quite quiet lately. He said that if they tried to take control of him when everyone's attention was on him, it would be like showing either their fear or hatred. Suddenly, the butler entered the room, shouting. He was shocked and said that Jin was assigned a mission and sent straight to the ruins of Colin. Then we see Jin's mother, Rose Runkendel, yelling at the flag bearers. She asked how they, who call themselves standard bearers, could have done their job so badly. She was furious that they'd sent Junior to Zippel territory. Suddenly the door opened and Jin came in, and my mother calmed down at the same time. There were standard bearers in the room, among them Runcha Runkendel, the 3rd standard bearer of the Runkendels, Ran Runkendel, the 5th standard bearer, Vigo Runkendel, the 6th standard bearer. Rose asked Jin if he had already heard that his next mission was in the Colin ruins. Jin replied that he had, but Rose immediately said it was cancelled. There is no chance that Jin will go to Colin. The sisters were outraged and decided to object, but Rose was furious and shut them up. She said that they only think about killing the younger ones. Miu asked if it was weird. The second sister also said that she didn't understand why my mother was protecting the little one. Rose said that if the sisters were crazy, then let them continue to talk nonsense. The sisters began to talk about how their mother and father had always silently forgiven their quarrels. They asked if it was because their family needed competition. She said that she was sure that everyone here grew up fighting. Second sister said that it was true. After all, she had been sent on ruthless missions so many times when she was only mid-rank. Rose finally agreed and said that competition is really needed, no matter what the methods and techniques are. But then she asked if they had reached the 5th rank at 15. The sisters were shocked. Rose said that Junior was different from all of them. She said that if they had jumped to the level of a junior at his age, she would have protected them too, but the sisters didn't deserve her protection. Rosa said that he could see the state they were in now that they were standard bearers, and he didn't regret it in the least. Then she turned to Runcha, Ran, and Vigo. She said that since the three of them were also standard bearers, they were responsible for the ruckus the sisters had caused. She ordered Runcha to practice self-discipline for a while, and Rana and Vigo to return one family sword each from their vaults. Rose said that if it was up to her, she would have taken all the prestige swords they had, so the brothers still got off easy. With that all sorted out, Rose wondered what action Jean would take next. In this situation, with Rose dragging in his non-Eddie siblings, Rose wondered if Jin would pretend and coax her to relent or enjoy favoritism. She wanted to see how he would resolve this situation. So Jin turned to his mother and said that he really liked the mission assigned by the sisters. Shocked, his mother asked him if he really meant it, knowing what a rotten place the Kalin ruins were. Jin said he knew it was part of the Zippel territory that the Rankendel had wanted in the past and failed to get. The sisters were also shocked. Jin said he understood the risk, but he wasn't going to back down in this battle. He said that he thought the mission assigned to him was fine. Jin told the sisters that the place was really dangerous, but he didn't believe it was an irrational decision. He said that the sisters probably thought that he had quite high abilities, so Jin turned things around in his favor. Rose said it was reckless and asked Jin if he was trying to make his mother lose her temper. Jin said no, and that if they suddenly decided to replace a person on a mission, it would be tantamount to admitting their incompetence. Rose said the partners wouldn't have suspected them of that. The Jin sisters are just trying to hurt him because they can't break him in battle using their authority. Jin also knows it's true, but she said that if he faced the sisters head-on, victory would be on their side, but if he succeeded in the mission, he would deal them a heavy blow. In other words, Jin saw a chance to win this battle. Rose said that the Kalin ruins were a place where he could die if he made a wrong move and asked if he was sure he wanted to go there. Jin said that he was confident and asked if when he successfully completed the mission, he would be able to get the swords that were taken from his brothers. He said that this mission is marked dangerous, so he asked to get at least such a reward. Rand said that they were just swords and that if Jin wanted them so badly, he would give him one of the items he had so that Jin would forget about this mission. Rand asked Jin if he didn't think staying alive until his father arrived would be enough. Jin thought it was funny and said that if it was so important, Rand would have stopped the sisters before they assigned Jin a task. His mother interrupted their conversation and told Jin that if he successfully completed the mission, she would give him the swords of his brothers. After these words, she dismissed everyone. Rose was afraid that Jin would do what Luna did, so she trampled on the other's pride, but she realized that it didn't seem necessary. She was sure Shiren would be happy to see the younger one grow up well. When everyone was out of the office, Anna asked Jin if he really thought he was lucky. Jin said they probably didn't know, but he wasn't too lucky. Anna said that soon his calmness will fly off because the mission is a team one and Jin will not be alone. Jin thanked her for her concern and then said that they would see each other again. And here we see Jin meeting up with his team for this mission. Mile Hass introduced himself first, then Lima Hass, and Kajin was also in the middle. Mile said it was an honor to be with Jin and apologized for his past mistake. Lima said he doesn't make a mistake on a mission. Kajin added that this also applies to him. Jin forgave Kajin and offered to put the past in the past, where it belongs, and get to work. Kajin thanked the young master. Jin wondered what kind of honor it would be if all three of them were members of Mayu and Anna's faction. He thought they were planning to stab him in the back and blame it all on the danger of the mission. Mile said he would introduce Jin to the situation. This is a search mission. The place is the ruins of Kalin. Artifacts to be found, 4 pistols. And here we will learn more about the Kalin ruins. Initially, a native settlement was established on these lands, but now the territory belongs to the Zippels and is associated with the kingdom of Phylon. Although Kalin was discovered several hundred years ago, the Zippels who stumbled upon the ruins and the local inhabitants killed and enslaved almost the entire population. Of course, now they say that they respect the locals, but this is only at first glance. Although they appear to be happy with their conditions, they are actually only the lives and rights of these natives are not important to most people, so they are ignored. Jean speculates that the reason Zippel spared their lives was to rule Kalin's land. This is a hypocritical act of alleged redemption of the past. Usually, the Zippel family is committed to good governance, and their people are genuinely loyal to them. Jin recalled that in any case, the Zippels had gone too far in their previous life and they had blackened their reputation for a reason, but all for the sake of a mirror-shaped artifact that the natives had carefully hidden. His existence is the Zippel family's biggest secret, but thank you to the brave journalists in Jin's past life for bringing the whole truth to light. The published report contained evidence of the atrocities committed by the Zippels in an attempt to find the artifact. According to local residents, it turned out that it was called the Fountain of Mana, a thing that just looking at it could raise one's mana level to 7. With it, the Zippel family would create an army of mages, but Jin knows it's going to start in 10 years because they haven't found the source yet. This time, Jin decided that he wouldn't let the Zippels take him. Miles said that the mages were coming back and then explained the strategy. He said that the artifact they were looking for was in the third warehouse. Miles said that a surprise attack alone wouldn't be difficult, but there's detection magic in there. Kajin asked them not to worry because according to him, no matter what happens, they will protect Jin with their lives. Jin was skeptical, but he thanked her. Jin said that safety directly depends on endurance. He suggested that we rest for a while and start in an hour. Jin took some dried meat out of his pocket and offered them a snack. The three of them ate what Jin gave them. When they had all eaten it, Jin said he would go and wish them sweet dreams. Miles started to fall, and Kajin asked if it was poison. Jin said it was just sleeping pills. They got on the floor. Jin asked Miles if he really wanted to admit that they were here to kill him. Jin said that he would be less suspicious of him if he acted as arrogant as usual. Then Jin chuckled and wondered if it was only dogs who followed their master's orders with blind loyalty. And so, after Jin put his companions to sleep, he was left alone. We see two security guards talking about something and suddenly one of them was neutralized by Jin. The second guard got scared and asked who he was, then hit Jin with a spear. Jin managed to dodge the spear. Then he lunged and kneed the guard in the throat. After knocking them out, Jin deduced that it didn't look like there were any other guards outside. He went to the vault doors and was surprised to see that they had a simple lock with no signaling magic. Sometimes they let ordinary people hang around the third warehouse, so Jin thought the Zippels didn't think it was particularly important. When Jin opened the door, he saw a magic circle of blood and blood on the floor. It is known to the public as a protective magic that allows you to recognize the bloodline. In fact, the circle distinguishes between humans and demonic beasts, as well as victims of the epidemic. Jin realized that it didn't matter whose blood it was, as long as it belonged to a common person. Then he cut the guard's hand because he didn't want to leave any evidence. He spilled the blood of one of the guards on the circle. The circle glowed red, and Jin thought that the first signal was simple. But suddenly the circle was activated. Jin couldn't understand, because he was using the man's blood and yet the circle was activated. Which means the guard is sick or not human at all. And Jin saw that those two guards turned out to be monsters. They turned into huge muscular creatures, and their eyes glowed red. Jin couldn't figure out what was wrong. He used the Wind of Silence spell. Any mages in the area can detect spells, so Jin wanted to minimize their use, but the situation had changed. It seems that the battle cannot be avoided. The monster ran at Jin and hit him, but Jin dodged, then drew his blade and hit back. The monster screamed in pain and got even angrier as it hit again. This time Jin jumped out of the way. Jin then decided that he should use Bradamante, so he drew his sword from its scabbard and an aura enveloped his blade. The giants were surprised. From their reactions, it was clear that they knew that the aura was dangerous. Then we see the monster pull Jin's knife out of its belly. Jin was surprised to see this, as the giant's wound was immediately repaired. This kind of regeneration rate is only found in the highest class of demonic monsters, but these two were humans just a moment ago, which made Jin feel confused. Jin reasoned that there were a lot of mages passing through Zippel's territory, and the locals were in. Jin assumed that these strange monsters were living golems. Their creation is a serious crime. Jin wondered if the Zippels could use the Kallen ruins as a laboratory for experiments with forbidden magic. Living golems have the strength and speed of smaller and 4-rank monsters. Their movements are clumsy, worse than those of rank 4 swordsmen who have been properly trained, and it's not difficult to fight them, Jin thought. He knew that normally a magic weapon, a golem wouldn't stop even if it was seriously injured. To neutralize it, you need to destroy the core. We can see that a golem's core can be its head, heart, or stomach, although these golems are illegal and live, but they are no different from ordinary golems. So Jin started hitting the cores. First he hit the golem in the head, but there was no core. The golem's strength and speed didn't drop at all, moreover, it became more aggressive. Then Jin decided that if not the head, then there was only one place left. He cut the golem in half and a blue ball fell out of it. This was the core. Jin of course broke it. He couldn't believe that the Zippels would even outrage their fellow humans. Suddenly, a golem pounced on Jin from behind, but he managed to react and hit his arm with the sword, causing the golem to cry out in pain. Then Jin hit the heart and it turned out that there was a core and the golem died. Jin let out a sigh of relief and thought about how the magic was almost released and it was close. Suddenly, Jin heard someone pleading. It turned out that a half-finished golem that looked like a man in tears was asking to be killed. Jin felt sorry for him, but he pulled himself together and did it. Jin didn't know what had happened to these people, but no one will become a living golem of their own volition, especially since after the transformation, they become consumable material with no future. Still, Jin knew this wasn't the time to be angry. However, he didn't expect this to happen and witness this terrible sight of the Zipples. Jin assumed that the sisters were aware of the situation when they gave him the mission, but no one cancelled the mission. Jin knew that even if he told the whole world the truth, the Zippel family would find a way to cover it up, because creating live golems is a serious enough crime for the Empire's investigative committee to press them. In the meantime, he decided to gather evidence and continue the mission. Still, Jin knew that even then the Zippels would be able to completely deny their involvement, but that was not a problem. So far, the mages haven't made any big moves. This means that most of them are unaware of the real situation. If they had known that the guards were living golems, they wouldn't have been so careless about guarding the warehouses. Consequently, not everyone in the Kalen ruins was involved in the crime. After entering the warehouse, Jin saw that the defensive magic on the stone slab was simple, but the one on the dishes was quite strong. According to Jin, usually the wards are removed from the body, but 2 live golems are dead, so the Zippels will have to bury all the mess Jin makes. He started using magic, and flames appeared in his hand, and shadow energy appeared in the other, and he combined them together and decided that he would burn everything there that he could. He used explosive flames. Then we see Luna angrily asking the sisters who sent Jin to Zippel's territory if they're out of their minds. After all, Jin is 10 years younger than them. Luna asked why they did it. One of the sisters asked if Luna was asking because she really didn't know. Luna said that wasn't an answer and asked the sisters if they had started a battle for the hierarchy with a junior of the middle rank. Luna said that the unspoken rule of war is that standard bearers are against standard bearers, and non-standard bearers are against each other. Luna told them to be ashamed, because even she was sorry that the sisters were the family's standard bearers. Sister Anna screamed that Luna had never interfered in their squabbles because she had such power. Luna interrupted her by saying that if they had won after Junior's trial, she wouldn't have said a word. But Jin had succeeded on the mission in the Kalen ruins and must be reporting back to Mother right now. Luna asked if the sisters understood why she was talking about shame, because after all, the sisters had given him the wings he needed to soar. Luna wondered if there had ever been a situation in their family where sabotage had failed in the same way as this one. She ordered the sisters to leave, but before the sisters left, she managed to say that according to her observations, Jin wasn't the type to show mercy. She asked them to be careful and said that she was only saying this out of concern for them and that even if something went wrong, they were still her younger sisters. And now we see that the moon is already in her room. Nanny said she thought Luna was going through puberty again since she'd raised her hand against her younger siblings as soon as they got back. Luna said that at her age, what kind of transition age can we talk about? Nanny said she was worried, given Jin's temperament, he would never forget something like this. Luna asked Nanny if she also thought that Jinu's sisters were no match for her. Nanny said she didn't think they'd be able to face him in a real fight in 5 years, so they didn't have much time to live. Luna told Nanny not to say something so terrible out loud since they were still blood relatives. Suddenly, Luna asked Nanny if she had found the person who tried to kill Master Jin. Nanny said they weren't 2 ladies because they were middle ranked at the time, so it's no use looking at them. Luna said it made sense. According to her, it's definitely not Mary and Yona or the Tone twins, so the remaining suspects are Master Joshua, Master Diff, Master Ran, Vido, and Miss Runcha. Nanny said that aside from Masters Rana and Vigo, she couldn't recklessly study the others. Luna confirmed that this is the case, as the other 2 are known for their deception skills. According to Luna, Nanny is more likely to get a headache trying to see them. Luna said they would just watch them, and Nanny would definitely get into awkward situations, taking care of her suspicions. Nanny said that Luna had thought well, and then added that even after the assassination attempt, the young master was growing well and that there was no need to worry too much. And then we see Jin come home. Jilly was crying, glad that Jin was safe and sound. Jin said that everything was fine and that soon even she wouldn't be able to beat him. Jilly said that Jin was sent to a dangerous place and that if something went wrong, she would take revenge with her life. Murakin asked Jin if he had reported back. Jin said that people would probably say that he completed this mission with outside help, but now he's worried about the gossip. Then he remembered something and asked Gilly and Murakin to take a look. In the jar, Jin had the heart of a living golem. Murakin said that Jin was a favorite of fate, and that since Jin himself had returned unharmed, the golem must have been the result of a failed experiment, and then Murakin asked Jin if he had found this heart in the ruins of Kalen. However, Jin replied that the 2 guards had turned into monsters and told them that they regenerated each time he hit them, and this appeared when he pierced their cores. Hearing about the living golems, Murakin was shocked. Murakin seriously wondered what Zippel's plan was. If last time there was a grave giant, now there are living golems. What's next? Mirakin said that in any case, if Jin's words were true, it was the Zippels' doing, given that the ruins were their territory. Mirakin then suggested that they visit Colin again later because he wanted to ask them a few questions about what was going on. Although Jin didn't really want to go back to the living golems, it would still be safer with Mirakin. Jin thought that if he was lucky, he might even be able to find the source of mana, and that no matter what mess they made there, the Zippel family would do their best to hide the situation. Jin agreed to Mirakin's suggestion and said that he would set aside some time. And now we see the results of the mission. Shortly after its completion, Kajin and the Haas brothers returned on their own, but Mayu and Anne stripped them of their cadet qualifications and kicked them out of Runkandel. Expelling cadets who had officially completed their mission was a harsh punishment, but no one felt any sympathy for them. It is now June 1795, and Jin continues to train with Pure Stone. Zed said that starting today, Junior's training with the Pure Stone is over and that tomorrow he's only expecting the twins. However, Jin also needs to come to morning training sessions with the rest of the cadets. Zed said that the head would tell them something next week, and the twins were surprised to hear this, but Jin was calm. The twins were thinking that it was impossible for their father to promote the younger one to trainee flag bearer. The twins quietly discussed that the trainee standard bearer must leave Rankadel to earn the honor. Daytona confirmed that the trainee must act independently without any family support. Jin only thought that it had finally happened, that he wouldn't have to endure the dissecting attention of everyone around him anymore. He was happy to be able to develop his strength the way he wanted. And here we see Shiren walking at the head of the army. Han informed him that they would reach the Garden of Swords in 2 hours. Shiren said that the last son continues to interfere with his training. Shiren planned to stay on the Black Sea for 10 years, but this is not the first time. Han said that he had sensed that young Master Jin was unusual back in the Tempest Castle, but he couldn't have guessed how much, and what Jin was doing in the Garden of Swords really shocked him. Shiren said that his fighting spirit is extraordinary. Even though Jin was a child, his eyes showed deep regret when they first met. Although Shiren thinks Jin was still trying to hide it. Shiren said that he couldn't forget how Jin provoked his siblings as soon as he arrived at the Garden of Swords. Although no one had ever taught him this, the junior instinctively knew the rule of destroying opponents. Shiren said that the other brats knew this and tried to keep Jin, but he survived and came back every time his siblings threw him into the clutches of death, and now he's rank 5. Apart from Mammoth and the ruins of Colin, Shiren was more interested in the first mission. The fact that Jin fought one-on-one with a White Wolf tribe warrior and won, Shiren expected the younger to use his subordinates as a shield, but who would have thought that he could handle it alone? Shiren said that by doing this, Jin was able to prove the validity of his own promises. Han asked Shiren if he really believes that Jin killed one of the White Wolves on his own, to which Shiren replied that he does. But the truth is not quite true. But anyway, according to Shiren, Jin is a funny guy and Shiren is going to learn the details of the first mission from him. And so they arrived at the gate of the Garden of Swords. Shiren was walking along the red carpet, and soldiers were lined up on either side of Shiren. Rose and Luna met Shiren and he told her that she did well. But Rose said that Joshua had prepared everything himself, so she didn't have to do anything. Shiren then replied that if Rose said so, since the grown children could do just fine without him, there was no need for him to leave the Black Sea. Shiren said that the guests they would receive today would be overly attentive to him and asked if it would make life difficult for the children. Rose said that it was alright and asked everyone to go inside because she had prepared their favorite dishes. Suddenly, as Shiren was passing by Jin, he noticed that Jin had 2 swords in his scabbard. He turned to Ran and Vigo and asked them if they had returned the swords he had given them. Ran said that it was Junior who stole the swords from them, and they agreed to give them back if he successfully completed the mission in the ruins of Colin. Shiren smiled broadly, then laughed out loud. Shiren placed a hand on Ran's shoulder, told them to make sure they got them back, and noted that Jin Chudo was perceptive. So much so that Shiren sometimes wonders if he's really his son. We see Jin and Shiren standing side by side. Shiren also told Jin that it seems to be his first banquet. In his previous life, thanks to his teacher, Jin had attended some of the other family's receptions, but this was the first time he had visited the main family. On the rare occasions when banquets were held, Jin hid like a criminal, and now he is the guest of honor at his father's side. Jin started to think about something, but Shiren threw him off by talking to him. Shiren said he was sure Jin knew this, but their family rarely held such events because they only celebrated those occasions that were worth celebrating. In other words, Shiren said that Jin's achievements are quite high. Shiren placed a hand on Jin's shoulder and asked him how many guests he thought they had invited. Jin guessed there might be about 1,000. That's right, Shiren said. The number has increased by about 200 since the last time 7 years ago. This shows that the Rankandel family's prestige has grown in these 7 years. Shiren said that from time to time, other families organize huge banquets, but all the 1,000 guests gathered here today are outstanding people. For 7 years, Shiren did nothing but continue his training, destroying demonic creatures in the Black Sea. Shiren said that their family's authority continued to grow, however, because in the current era, he was the only one who had become the quintessential knight. Shiren knew that if he disappeared, it was very likely that most of the people here would turn their backs on the Runandals. Jin also understood that without his father, the Runandals would not have had so much power. The Rankandal and Zippel families are the two main families, but with my father gone, the gap in military power between them will widen significantly. In that case, the Zippel family would have absolute superiority over everyone else. Jin turned to his father and said that if it wasn't for him, if all these people decided to turn their backs on them, if the Zippels started to oppress them and push them into a corner, Jin would leave the family. Shiren asked what Jin was talking about. Jin continued that if the Rankandal family failed without Shiren, it would indicate the incompetence of the next head. Jin said he wasn't going to die a miserable death under such a patriarchy. Jin then asked Shiren how many other people's vulnerabilities they had at their disposal. He said that in exchange for the return of his brother's sword, Vigo asked him to show him the family's custom contracts, which only standard bearers have access to. The head of the Wernga family deceived the emperor and pocketed the treasures of the empire, but through their efforts, his relatives can attend this banquet without a twinge of conscience. The Clover family recently asked them to remove magicians from the Zippel family. Gerald's daughter sold the family heirlooms to support her SVL gambling addiction and appealed to them, and she also did not pay the commission fee. Jin had a bloodless weapon at his disposal with a single glance. He said that there should be a lot more weaknesses in the secret contracts that only Shiren and Mother are allowed to view. Shiren asked if Jin was saying that even without him, he could have protected the family. Jin said that if the head, without becoming the quintessential knight, leads the family, then everything will depend on his diplomatic abilities. Shiren said they weren't the only ones who knew about the alien wormholes, though, since the Zippel family had just as many of them in store. Jin said he was sure of it, but the Zippels would never be able to justify owning such things. Jin said it was because the role of villains belongs to the Rankandalas. He went on to say that regardless of whether the next chapter can use this weapon or not, Jin will leave the family without a second thought and then prepare for revenge on the Zippels, no matter how long it takes. Shiren grinned and said that it wasn't so bad. After all, they had to be alive to get their revenge. It suddenly occurred to him that the other children didn't have the guts to talk about the possibility of the Runandal falling in front of him, just bragging or whining. But Junior, he thought with a smile, Junior is bluntly stating his conclusions while remaining completely unperturbed. Shiren was only sorry that Jin had appeared in his declining years, but Shiren felt that Jin had all the talents of Luna, Mary's wild nature, and Diff's fighting spirit. Shiren reflected that 10 years was a sure thing, but not more than 15, so long as he could be in charge. He was thinking that he would enjoy watching Junior turn the line of succession upside down. Shiren said that it looked like most of the guests had already arrived and it was time for them to join in. At that moment, Shiren remembered something. He told Jin that there was something Shiren would like to discuss with Jin after the banquet, and that Jin would be called. Jin was sure that this would be a promotion to trainee standard bearer, and it looked like he would be leaving the family soon. Jin was thinking that the 4 days of the reception would be really long. Suddenly a man ran up to them, shouting and calling for Shiren. It turned out that the guests had arrived uninvited. Shiren couldn't understand. He was starting to think that since they were intruders, he assumed they were the Zippel family. And so it turned out. Shiren asked if they were Zippels, and the man said that there were 5 of them, the assistant head Andre Zippel and his family, which was very bold of them. Shiren ordered Heinz to tell Andre to get out and invited the others inside. At this moment, Jin thought about how Andre Zippel had really brazenly intruded. But Jin didn't expect that his father would reject the deputy mages like this. Shiren asked Jin if Jin thought it was too rude, to which Jin replied that he thought it was fine. The moment Andre Zippel expresses his displeasure and leaves with his family, he will ignore the order of the head of the Rankandals to enter the other 4, which is forbidden in the Garden of Swords. Andre will comply, and if he doesn't, he'll come home with his legs cut off. Shiren said it was about time for the banquet to start, and here he is standing over the hall and thanking everyone that they came. He said that after receiving such a beautiful son in his declining years, it seemed that he would finally be able to get rid of his burden. Shiren said he wanted them to express their appreciation for his youngest son. So Shiren began to talk about the rules of the banquet, which are only 2 in number. If a guest is caught up in a fight while being high, follow the guards to the arena. The loser must obey, and the winner must show mercy because they are at the banquet after all. Jin knew it was inevitable. Hundreds of influential people are gathered in one place, and all of them are entangled in a web of favor and malice. If it was a peaceful party, they would just stare at each other and disperse, but this is a banquet in the Garden of Swords. By following the rules set by Shiren, you can knock out all life from your enemy, even if you don't kill him. In any case, guests have the opportunity to show others who is really the best. Shiren, standing on the balcony, said that he hoped that each of the guests would have a good time. Shiren then turned to Jin, who told him that if Jin found someone who liked him, then let him drag him to the ring, but he didn't choose those who looked weaker if they didn't offend anyone. Jin said that he was sure that losing was forbidden. Shiren said that it was obvious and that if Jin lost, his father would take everything from Bratomania to the nanny. It was the first time my father and Jin had had such a conversation. In his previous life, Jin had never dreamed of such a thing, and they had interacted like father and son. However, Jin's goal isn't to get his father's calling or become a pet, his only goal is to surpass Shiren. And then we see Jin talking to the guests, and suddenly the twins come up to him. They congratulated Jin on his 5th rank and asked if he would mind if they stood together. Jin asked them how the Pure Stone training was going. Hayton said it was better, they had done well after using the weapons their uncle recommended. After that, Jin said in Hayton's ear that this is enough to look natural and ordered to leave. Suddenly, a man came up to him and said that it was nice to meet